Recently I started a new video series called Weird Games PS1 Edition. Well, the title is still in progress. I really enjoy searching for unknown and forgotten games and of course showing them to you. But this game I came across is so strange and so interesting that I decided to dedicate an entire video to it. The weirdest part is that I had completely forgotten about it. I actually owned a copy of this game when I was a kid. I don't even remember how or where I got it, but this research period unlocked memories that I have been buried for years. So, without wasting any time, I want to introduce one of the most strangest games I ever played on original PlayStation 1 to this day. Kagero Deception 2. Before we begin, I would be very happy if you could hit like and subscribe button. This game at first glance looks similar to Final Fantasy series in terms of visual style, but in reality it couldn't be further from it. I never played the first game, I just played the second, but from my research the first game was very different in tone compared to the sequel. The original Tecmo's Deception Invitation to Darkness was somewhat controversial because the main character made a deal with the devil to take revenge on those who falsely accuse him of his father's death. What was even stranger, that the game had a label warning about satanic imagery, even though the second game ended up having a higher age rating. As far as I know, the first and second game are almost completely different, and some players were disappointed by how much it changed. The first game was played from a first-person perspective, while the sequel switched to third-person, where you can actually see your character. Personally, I prefer games where you can see your character, whether it's an RPG or third-person shooter like Max Payne or Tomb Raider. So I don't see this camera change as a negative. When it comes to the story, this time it's much darker than before. You play as a girl named Millennia, who was raised by a super race called Timenoids, or TMD, as the others refer to them. That name always made me laugh. It sounds more like some kind of drug than a race. The Timenoids are presented as being superior to humans in every way. The game shows them as blue-toned aristocrats, immortal entities with no emotions or morality. Your character Millennia is used by them to eliminate anyone who stands in their way, while they also test their loyalty. Kagero Deception 2 focuses much more on its story compared to the first game. In the original, you play as a prince who never spoke and simply killed anyone who entered his castle. Here, everything is taken to another level. You can already see the differences in the very first mission. In the first game, the opening mission was no different from the rest of the game. You set up traps and kill anyone who comes in your castle. But in the sequel, things are different. Your first target is an innocent man who accidentally wandered into the castle, and your task is to kill him. He doesn't fight back, he just tries to leave, and you can actually let him go. If you do, the mission is still cleared, though the TMD will scold you before sending you to the next stage. I clearly remember the first time I played this game, I had no idea what it was. On the back of the box I saw swords, main character fighting them, but that was about it. No real explanation. What was the game about? Of course, being a kid, when I started the game, I skipped all the intros because I just wanted to play as fast as possible. And I had no idea what I was doing. There were so many menus and everything felt confusing. Of course, my first mission was the man simply walked out of the castle. After a few missions, I was hoping that the game will start to speed up and I will do something else than setting up the traps. But I realized that the game was that slow and I dropped it for almost 30 years. Of course, after so many years, now playing it again, I see with completely different eyes. And I understand that this is actually one of the most unique games out there. Well, honestly, I would be surprised if most of the players had a similar experience to the first time they played it. The controls are very complex and confusing. It's even hard to compare them to other PlayStation era games, because many PlayStation 1 titles actually controlled very well. This is not one of them. The camera isn't great either. It's stuck behind your character, and when you run around the corner you have to turn just to see where your enemy is. And she turns like an old tank, slow and steady. And in later stages, when enemies jumping around and running around, it's quite annoying. Oh, and don't forget that enemies are also behaving like moving walls. If you get stuck between two of them, your stage is probably lost. You will die every time. Strangely enough, it's nice that the game lets you skip cutscenes, which was actually rare in the PlayStation 1 era. Back then, cutscenes were used as a loading screens, so while you were watching them, the game was loading in the background. This game doesn't rely on that. One downside in Kagero Deception 2 no longer lets you build your own castle, which was a feature in the first game. Instead, you're given pre-designed castles. At first, that might sound as a loss, but in reality, the castles are more interesting and better designed, and more varied. You also get to explore new environments often, which helps prevent the game to feel repetitive. Room now comes with built-in traps that you can use against enemies. But what I really like the most, and something that the first game didn't really have, is trap combos. Now you can chain traps together, and it almost turns the game into a rhythm-based game experience, where you have to activate traps at the right moment as enemies move across them. So at the start of each stage, you have to choose from 3 types of traps, which you can also use after another as long as they're not on cooldown. You can carry 3 traps per category: 3 walls, 3 floor, and 3 ceiling traps. You can activate them as long as they're ready. You can even place different traps in different rooms, which helps a lot when enemies are chasing you. In the first game, you had to look directly at the trap to activate it. Now you just press the corresponding button while you're in the same room, which makes everything much smoother and faster. Also, traps have extra properties beyond just dealing damage. For example, spears can shoot across the entire room, mines can stay active until someone steps on them, explosions can send enemies flying, and boulders can roll down the stairs. Many traps have knockback effects, and some can even pin enemies in one place, which lets you chain them together for higher damage. The first game didn't really have splash damage traps, but the sequel fully embraced them. And of course, there's another big change, apparently that wasn't in the first game, that you can be damaged by your own traps. This adds a whole new layer to the gameplay, because now you constantly have to think about positioning. There were many times when I pressed the wrong button and instead of hitting the enemy, I activate a trap on myself, which cost me a losing game. I think one of the most satisfying part of the game is setting everything perfectly, placing traps, preparing the room, and then watching your target walk into your sequence as everything triggers one after another. At first it might sound simple, you're just placing traps, but the game constantly finds a way to keep things interesting. Upgrading and improving traps plays a big role in that. Every time you unlock something new, you want to test it immediately, and once you do, you start thinking about new combinations of traps you want to use on enemies. The whole game loop becomes very addictive, and after I finished the whole game, I found myself missing or thinking that I didn't do everything I could. Now you can also reposition traps as much as you want, because the MP resource from the first game is gone. That change alone makes the game feel much more flexible, and I think that was a great change. I really enjoyed that feeling. When you run out of traps and everything becomes on cooldown, you become vulnerable. And I often found myself running into another room where a set of new traps was waiting. That moment when you're escaping from one room to another while being chased creates a small but real sense of adrenaline. Another thing worth praising is the enemy AI. Enemies actually feel smart. They follow you from room to room, creating constant pressure while your traps are on cooldown. They can charge at you, jump towards you and shoot projectiles, and even navigate around certain traps. Later in game you often see two enemies, and that feels almost like puzzles. You sometimes have to deal with one enemy before attacking another. Each stage usually has this one crystal that restores your health once. In some levels you have to decide whether it's worth risking everything to reach it, while being chased by multiple intelligent enemies. One wrong decision can actually cost you an entire stage. One mission near the end really stood out to me. Your task is defending this treasure room. The treasure room is rigged with explosives, but you unknowingly kill the person holding the detonator. Now, if anyone touches the treasure, the entire castle will collapse. Of course, enemies start flooding in, one after another, trying to reach this treasure. You're trying to defend it, but each wave gets stronger. Eventually enemies start coming, seeking for revenge for those you killed earlier. The whole setup feels like a third-person tower defense game, years before the genre even became popular. What especially impressed is how well was the AI patterns used. The room has 3 entrances. Most of the time enemies come through 2 of them, but sometimes a sneaky one appears from the 3rd one. You never know what kind of enemy you will be facing. Some rush to you immediately, some hang back, and others ignore you until you get too close. The ones that run away are the most annoying because you have to chase them while still defending the treasure. Overall, it's a very engaging experience. The first game was very simple. Enemies came in, you killed them, that's it. Kagero raised everything to another level with better enemy designs, wired objectives and stronger story elements. This game is dark, not just in story, but in what you actually do. That's not entirely new for the series. Since the first game, you were essentially a mass murderer sacrificing innocent people to the devil. But here you play as an emotionless girl who takes pleasure in killing even innocent people, and that makes it even more darker. Of course, it doesn't help that she was kidnapped from her parents as a child and raised to be a tool. The whole game feels strange, not just how it plays, but in who you are. In most games you are the hero, saving people in one way or another. Here you are the villain, destroying people. Sometimes they deserve it, sometimes they don't. And that's what makes it stand out. Very few games let you play like this. That's exactly why I felt this game deserved its own video. The very strange, the very unique game from the 90s. Hope you enjoyed this review of Kagero Deception 2. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you another time.